Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I hope you're doing well. I want to come on real quick to talk to you about 2 Kings chapter 4. I want to share with you all that I realized today that some of the things that we're going through, it's not necessarily God's will for us. He's allowing it because we're allowing it, but it's not necessarily his heart for us. Now, I'm actually talking to those of you who are in church. Those of you who might have grown up in church, those of you who, you might be in church, you might have been in church for a while now. You think you're doing the right thing and you're trying to do the right thing and you're going through day to day and you're doing everything that you think you're supposed to do and you can't figure out why you're getting the same results over and over again, and you might be frustrated or in an area where it just feels like you're stuck. I'm kind of there right now. But I'm realizing that part of the reason why I'm there is because for several seasons of my life, I've been functioning out of a place of tradition and doing what I thought was expected of me and finding out that that's not necessarily what God wanted me to do. Sometimes I think that, particularly those of us who are older who've been in church, we almost feel like it's a badge of honor to go through challenges. We almost feel guilty if we have too much money, if we have too much influence, if we're prospering in an area, if we're succeeding a little bit too much. We almost feel guilty, like it's not something that we're supposed to do because we're God's children. It's almost like as Christians, we believe somewhere in there that we took an oath of poverty. And believe me, I'm not preaching prosperity, although I'm not preaching failure either. But you get what I'm saying? I'm not a preacher that's always like, talking about your blessings on the way, your blessings on the way, your blessings on the way. Even if you don't do nothing, even if you don't follow God, even if you're disobedient, your blessings on the way. I'm not speaking of that. What I'm talking about is us putting up with challenges, the enemy, tolerating Jezebel, tolerating defeat because we think that's what we're supposed to do. This is where the book of 2 Kings chapter 4 comes in. I was thinking about the poor widow. There are two women in 2 Kings that's very interesting to me. There's the poor widow and there's the rich wife. The poor widow has sons, but she's just lost her husband, and her husband left her in a lot of debt. The debt that her husband left her in actually resulted in her having to pay back the people who he owed. And it's only recently that I realized when she went to the prophet Elisha, who was someone who her husband knew. When she went to the prophet Elisha, the prophet asked her what she had in her home. And the woman responded by saying she only had a vial of oil. I didn't realize that the reason why she was saying she only had a vial of oil was because that was pretty much all she had in her home. Because her husband left her in debt and because she owed his creditors, they'd already come back and repossessed everything that the woman owned. So at the point when the woman, the poor widow, went to the prophet Elisha and she explained to them that the creditors or the people who she owed money to were now requiring her to sell her sons into slavery to pay off the debt, the issue that she was having was that she'd already given them everything that she owed. Stick with me, guys. I'm trying to get this out. What it made me realize is that the widow, for lack of a better word, was able to accept not having furniture, not having certain items in her home. She was able to accept that she may have even thought that was her lot, that was okay. It was okay to let all that go, to be able to pay off her husband's debt. But what the scripture appears to be showing me is that it was only when the creditors required her to sell her sons into slavery that she reached such a point of desperation that she went to the prophet Elisha looking for help. She didn't look for help or ask for help when she realized her husband was in debt. She didn't ask for help when her furniture got repossessed. But when they hit a point where they were touching the things that was near and dear to her, her sons, she was desperate. At that point, they reached her pain point and she went looking for help. So how does this apply to us? A lot of times we're going through things in life and it doesn't seem all that bad. You have a minor setback here. You know, something might happen at work and it's a little disappointing. You might get overlooked for a job, or you might not be advancing the way that you felt you should. Other people are getting promoted around you when you're still in the same spot. Or I've had the experience where I start projects, but for some reason the projects never are brought to fruition. Like I'm right at the point where the item or the project is supposed to get awarded, and then for whatever reason the award gets canceled. You know, all these little things. But because I haven't lost my job, you know, I'm still employed. I kind of put up with it because it's like, well, you know, that happens. That's life, right? Sometimes you're dealing with disappointments where you can't figure out why your finances aren't adding up. You know, you're making money, but you know, your checking account or your savings account isn't looking like you think it should look after working all these years. And you're not really frivolous with your spending, but you can't figure out why you just never had money in the bank. But okay, you know, that's life. So you just deal with it. And maybe you're looking around at what's going on in your life and you're trying to figure out why other people are in a different season than you are. You know, whatever that season is. But okay, that's life. So you just go along with it. Because it's not that it's bad. It's not that it's bad. And God has been blessing you. So we don't really want to complain. But something just seems like if you really take inventory, you keep hitting these spots where something just feels a little off. And it made me think of the poor widow. And what I began to think about that situation is sometimes it takes, and please excuse my language for anybody who will be offended, but I don't know how else to describe it. It takes all hell to break loose for us to finally go to God and ask him what's wrong.